Racing Bulls did something in Zandvoort that got the whole paddock talking. Both cars in Q3, Hadjar on the podium for the first time. Clean execution, sharp strategy, and genuine speed on a circuit that exposes any weakness in balance or traction. That single weekend forced a question nobody expected to ask this late in the year or at all since. Let's get real. Racing Bulls is the sister team for Red Bull. On pure pace, are Racing Bulls now level with Red Bull? And if they are, is Max Verstappen the factor that is keeping the senior team afloat? The thought sounds provocative until you stack the evidence, then it lands with a sting. If Verstappen is the separating line inside the Austrian camp, the obvious follow-up is uncomfortable. Would the four-time world champion actually be better off in the sister garage if he wanted the most confidence under his right foot from Friday to Sunday? You cannot ignore form lines over multiple rounds. Lawson has turned to corner points in 3 of the last 6, and likely 4 of 6, without the Sainz incident. Hadjar ended a 5-race drought, then turned Zandvoort into a statement with the kind of rhythm that only comes from a car that speaks a clear language. Put emotion to one side, and the trend is straightforward. Racing Bulls are easier to drive, easier to set up, easier to push to the limit without feeling punished for trying. That is not a lazy narrative. Lawson grew the moment he dropped into Faenza, so shrank the moment he moved in the other direction. It is not a talent gap, it looks like a philosophy gap. And let's not forget, we all know that Red Bull is heavily tailored to Max Verstappen, who has a unique way of driving. This makes it very hard for people that are partnered with him. The constructors' table will try to bluff you. Red Bull sit 4th. VCarb are 7th, scrapping with Aston Martin and Williams for 5. A glance says one thing, context says another. Racing Bulls bled points early through rookie rough edges and awkward calls on the pit wall. That is costly in a field this tight, but points are the arithmetic of weekends that are already decided by how drivable the car feels from the first run of F-Pone. On that front, ask the drivers who have touched both projects this year. Which one gives them clarity? The answer is already on the timing screens. Even Fernando Alonso leaned into the theory. He said what many are whispering: give Verstappen the Faenza car and he is in the title fight. He pointed to the early season form where Tsunoda was a fixture in the top 6, then dropped out in Coney the moment he strapped into the senior car. The words are blunt and they carry the weight of someone who has lived through world titles, wasted projects, and every shade in between. You can roll your eyes at paddock politics, but you do not roll your eyes at Alonso's feel for machinery. Laurent Mekies tried to hose down the cross-pollination talk by going back to first principles. Different design origins, different development paths, different problems solved in different ways. In modern Formula One, there is no simple copy-paste. That is correct in the strict sense. But it also misses the emotional heart of the debate. If one car is coherent for the driver and the other refuses to tell the driver what it is about to do, the spreadsheet does not matter. The season becomes a negotiation with grip, and the driver loses. Max himself nodded to the reality no champion wants to admit in public. On pure pace, Red Bull and Racing Bulls look tied in Zandvoort. That is not a compliment. That is a flare fired into the night sky. Listen to Verstappen describe the stint profile, and you hear it. Too much saving in the quick corners. Turn 7 and turn 8, taken with margin while rivals roll more speed. Not enough front load when he asks for it. Not enough rear support when he leans on the tire. The verdict was simple. The whole race he felt more matched to the sister team than to the front of the field. That should never happen with a car that carries the most successful driver of this era and a factory full of championship banners. Practically, he could choose chaos, walk across the corridor, and test the theory. He is not in a title campaign. He is not protecting a points buffer. He has freedom that champions rarely enjoy mid-season. For a driver who adapts faster than anyone we have seen since the very best of Alonso and Hamilton, a car that is easier to read is oxygen. If Lawson and Hadjar are doing this much with it now, imagine what it looks like with Max's precision on turn-in and throttle application. You can laugh off the idea, but the lines on the graph do not laugh with you. This is the part that makes Red Bull nervous in the medium term. Verstappen's public commitment runs through the first year of the new rules. At least that is how the paddock reads it. Beyond that, every wrong step in development eats away at trust. If 2026 begins without a clear competitive edge, if the car still asks for saving in the corners where a champion wants to attack, If the correlation gremlins keep stealing Fridays, then every alternative becomes more attractive. The sister team becomes proof of concept for a different culture. The field becomes more balanced. A superstar with options starts thinking like a human, not a logo. You can still argue for a red ball rebound. There are too many smart people in Milton Keynes to stay lost forever. But the sport does not wait while you find yourself. Everyone else works. Everyone else learns. Everyone else spends. Racing bulls have built something that lets their drivers push without fear of the edge. That is priceless right now, and Zandvoort put it under a spotlight. It did not say Red Bull have finished. It did say the gap in comfort and confidence has closed to a point where driver influence decides everything on Sunday. Which brings us back to the starting provocation. Would Max Verstappen win in a Racing Bulls if he sat in one tomorrow? The boring answer is that nobody can know until he does it. The honest answer is that nothing in his history suggests otherwise. If that swap ever happened, even for one weekend, the verdict would define more than a race. It would expose the single biggest weakness inside Red Bull since the departures began. Not politics, not PR, a failure to make the car simpler to understand as the internal compass spun. And if you think he would still walk it, then you understand why this conversation is not just a late summer thought experiment. It is a warning flare, and the clock is already ticking. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.